Dr. Akiva Gal-Melvelk, Dean of Jewish Studies at the Noach Torah Institute, LLC. Welcome, dear ones. We're in the introduction. This is introduction number 3, 3 parts so far, but there'll be more, God willing, of Eve, of Creation Restored. Dear ones, this is a valuable book, a learning tool to help us try to be better people and to try and reverse some of the actions that we may have that could be improper and may need reversing. Please pick a copy up. I believe that your life will be incredibly blessed by being a part of this class if you want to improve relationships with your spouse, children, and other people. Dear ones, there's a story that's told of a preacher. I could call it a rabbi, but the story is of a preacher. He was in this large auditorium, I guess, having a large revival. We would call it a maggid if it was a rabbi, a Jewish evangelist. But anyway, he's talking about perfection. And he says, does anybody know anyone who's perfect? And of course, he was trying to drive home the point that we all know there's no one really perfect, okay? There's some really very good people, but perfect, oh my, that's not so easy. So he's driving this point home, and in the back of the auditorium, there's this man waving, he's putting his hands up, he's drawing attention, and the preacher says, okay, sir, he says, do you know someone who's perfect? He goes, yes, my wife's first husband. So, okay. Dear ones, the point is that we do want to find our shirt, our mate. And God willing, when we find our shirt, our mate, we have this concept that it will just all flow together. It'll be just so beautiful. It'll be just so wonderful. And there will be times in a relationship, thank God, where we'll have that tiferet, that beauty in the relationship. But what we have in relationships a lot of times is the need for improvement. The need for improvement of the husband and the need for improvement of the wife. Now, I'd like to say to the men who are listening to this movie, this video, if you look in HaTorah, if you look in the Hebrew Scriptures, I would challenge you to find one incident where a man's wife said, I'm sorry, I apologize, I was wrong. We know that Sarah was hard on her maidservant Hagar, but we don't see her saying, I'm sorry, I overstepped my boundaries, I did the wrong thing. We have the 4 wives of Jacob, and we don't see any of them saying, I'm sorry for mistreating you, or I'm sorry for taking your mandrakes, or I'm sorry for whatever. We see Rivka, the wife of Yitzhak, of Isaac, and she develops this elaborate plan to make sure that her son Jacob receives the bracha, the blessing of Abraham and of Isaac. But we don't see her going back and saying, I'm sorry. And so what I'm trying to say to the men who are watching is that God has created 2 individuals in a relationship. And the lady, the feminine part of that relationship is chesed, is kindness. And kindness has lots of wonderful attributes. However, we don't see ladies being forthcoming and saying that they made a mistake, that they're sorry. And it just strikes me that men always have, I shouldn't say always, that's like every time, but men a lot of times think that their wife should apologize when they've done something wrong. And I got news for you, men. That's why God has given you, give a rote, strength. Because you see, it takes strength to accept the fact that in most instances, the wife's not going to apologize for anything that she may have done, or perhaps any irritation she may have caused. She's generally not going to apologize. It's not in the nature of ladies to be forthright with their husbands. Husbands are a bit of a dominating individual in their lives, and it's real incredible submissiveness. And ladies want to stand tall and be strong and be looked upon as being, the equal of their husband, and to say I'm sorry gives that impression of not being strong, but it's actually just the opposite. But that's the impression that it kind of gives ladies. And so men don't go around with hurt feelings and the attitude of I'm not going to resolve this issue because my wife won't apologize to me. Just let it go. God has given you the strength, and your responsibility is just to let it go, to overlook it. Be the bigger of the two individuals, overlook it. Now, ladies, of course, it is the right thing when we make mistakes to tell individuals we're sorry. However, we also know that when it's not in our makeup, our design to say I'm sorry, and we inside feel very sorry and we feel very hurt, and in turn we do special things for our husband to indicate that we are sorry without actually saying it. So men, pick up on these signs. The wife will make a special meal, will do a special dessert, or will do something special often to express the feeling that they are sorry without actually saying it. And so the point I'm trying to make is it's not necessary always to say that one's sorry. The real intent, you see, God looks at the intent, and when Cain sinned, he didn't say to Cain, look, you need to say that you're sorry. God said, improve. And so it didn't have anything to do with saying I'm sorry. He said improve. And so if a wife fails and she does something that irritates the husband, her goal is just to do the same thing that a man should do, and that is to improve, to not try and repeat the same error again, to return to Derek Hashem, the path of the Lord, Derek HaTorah, the path of Torah, and to do what's right. Now, in our discussion, we have the word Tom. The gematria for the word Tom is 440. Okay. However, if we use the gematria Gadol of the last letter, the final letter, it's actually 1,000. And we know that the number 1,000 is like perfection, is like perfect. And so we recognize that when Jacob was around the age of bar mitzvah, that the Torah says he was Tom, that he was perfect. But it doesn't have quite the same impact as when the Torah says that Noach was a righteous man and perfect in his ways, which is Tamim. Now, there's 2 points to this. And the points are that Jacob was not married, and that Noah was married. And so when a man has been married for a period of time, and he's been in a relationship, and the Torah says that he was a righteous man and he was perfect. Oh my! Naamah, the wife of Noah. Oh my, she must have been joyful, right? Her husband was Tamim. He was perfect. Now, with Jacob, he was a young man, and he would have to grow about 60 years, or a little more, and then he would be married to Leah and to Rachel, and they would each have a maid servant that would become a wife of Jacob also, which was Bilhah and Zilpah. So Jacob had 4 wives. Now, that is challenging. I mean, a man with 4 wives, he has different wives with different opinions, and they each are seeking his affection and his attention. And so, what we're seeing here is that while he has these 4 relationships, we're also recognizing this incredible potential, this phenomenal potential for really, really growing into that absolute state of being just like the ultimate husband, the man that is just the one that every lady would just want to marry, that would just want to be the wife of. He had the opportunities to have all of his 4 corners sanded, his rough edges all sanded, and the areas that weren't polished, all polished, because he had to have Shalom Bayit, not just with Leah, and not just with Rachel, and not with just Bilhah, and also with Zilpah. He had 4 different wives that he had to have Shalom Bayit with. And then he had all these children from each of the relationships that he was, of his marriages. And the children would look upon their father, and, young men are very defensive about their mother. And they want their father to show that loving kindness and that dignity and that respect to their mother. And yet there's these brothers that grow up together. They're all born within roughly 7 years, except for Benjamin. And the competition there, it's amazing. And so we recognize that he was not married when he was Tom, and that he was given 4 wives. And we realize the 4 wives are to help provide the 12 sons for the 12 tribes, the 12 star zodiacs, okay? But we also recognize that they were to bring Jacob to such a high place spiritually. And that's what a relationship is about. You see, dear ones, when we began with the story about the man that said, my wife's first husband, he was perfect. What we were really trying to share was this, that we're all looking for that beautiful relationship, that special relationship, that relationship where everybody gets along, that relationship where everybody loves everybody, that relationship where you just love your spouse so much you'd never think or do anything to cause her any pain or any suffering. And that special man who is just the right height, the right weight, the right looks. He's the gentleman. He is the absolute. You would just fall over just for him. You'd do anything for him. You wouldn't do anything to hurt him. That's the illusion that we all have, And I don't want to break anybody's bubble or to cause anyone any grief. But you actually arrive at that position of being polished, at that position of being the kind of person that you were wanting to marry, actually, as you reach, God willing, your senior years. There's a story told of a man who was quite up in his years, and he just hated his wife. And he went to the shul on the high holidays, and he bid for this particular aliyah so that he could have his wife killed, because he was going to give 120,000 rubles, and he didn't want it. He was a rich man, but he was never going to give 120,000 rubles. The intent was, well, if he didn't give it, then the Creator would kill his wife, and he would be free from her. And so what happens is after he makes this commitment of 120,000 rubles, he goes home, and wouldn't you know it, for whatever reason, his wife prepared his favorite soup. And he sat down and he had a bowl of soup, and he just simply said, "Honey, thank you for preparing this wonderful soup, my favorite soup. I appreciate it so much, thank you." And it's delicious. And her heart was so deeply touched that he would say thank you and that he appreciated her soup, that she thought, the next night I'm going to make his special meal. So she made him his special meal the next night. He comes home, "Oh, honey, why did you go to such trouble for me? And it's so difficult for you all these years. You made me the special meal, my favorite meal.
And last night he made my favorite soup, and he ate it, and he enjoyed it. And, this went on for a period of time. And she would perform another act of chesed, another act of kindness upon kindness upon kindness. And he just totally came back into alignment. And he loved his wife so much. And he cherished her. And she was everything that he ever wanted her to be. Of course, we're quite old now, but everything that he wanted her to be. And then he remembered he made this pledge. And he went to his Rebbe and he says, Rebbe, he says, I made this pledge and I had in my heart no intention of keeping this pledge. And I knew that if I made this pledge and I didn't keep it, it would kill my beloved wife who I care so much for now and I love so much. And what should I do, Rebbe? And the Rebbe says, pay the pledge. You see, dear ones, the marriage has struggles, it has difficulties, it has trials. That's normal for marriage. And even though we have these idealistic thoughts about what marriage should be, we have to be realistic and recognize that a good marriage takes work, it takes labor, it takes paying attention. And so we must recognize that each of us have our faults, we have our difficulties, and that the purpose for marriage, is to work on these issues, to have an area, and to have the opportunity, to have the beautiful opportunity to work on ourselves, to libido, to be the right kind of person. Thank you for joining me for Eva Creation Story.